Of course, Carson, having played for so long, we see all the way back to 2016, winning the senior division at the U.S. National Championships. Even though that wasn't the seniors division, that's at least 9 or 10 years of experience playing VGC. And no matter what age you are, having that experience can prepare you for the Masters division. So no shock to see Carson doing so well after being so good in that seniors division. But of course, Zachary, I think only his second or third year in Masters as well, and already has some great accomplishments to his name.
Yeah, and looking at really recent results here, I mean, the New Orleans International Championships, NAIC, top 32 is so stacked, and just being able to go consistently on these tournament runs is awesome. I love the Sneasler plushie, by the way. I just have to say that. Before we get into the team, which of course, featuring a Sneasler, being able to see this Grassy Seed unburden and having the set with the acrobatics and that Terra flying. But this one, instead of the sword dance, we'll just have that full coverage of a Dire Claw close combat and acrobatics, so you're set for any situation.
Sword Stance instead is on the King Gambit, which is going back to that Black Glasses set. It's a set we saw very often in the earlier stages of Regulation H and even some other regulations throughout the Scarlet and Violet era. But King Gambit hasn't been as popular in Regulation H this time around. Clearly still has what it takes to compete though, as this Sword Stance Black Glasses set is very, very scary.
It's one of those Pokemon that to really be able to have that offensive pressure that you want kind of needs the Sword Dance, and when you have a really weird speed tiering with it, that can be a little bit bad. But if you can get the Sword Stance up, there's not really a lot of Pokemon that would appreciate a Black Glasses +2 Sucker Punch King Gambit. So something that, of course, Carson really has to be careful of. But there's reasons why King Gambit has been a little bit pushed out. And looking on this team, there is a lot of really strong options to be able to pose against it. Annihilate and Ursaluna are two instant ones that come to mind.
Of course, the Annihilate is really great into King Gambit just because it does threaten those huge close combats. Of course, the Focus Sash there as well will be able to protect it from at least one hit, and it's carrying Coaching instead of Taunt like we see on a lot of these supportive Annihilate sets, which could bolster the defense of some of its partners into that King Gambit as well.
I'm looking at this Incineroar and eyeing up the Protect, because we've seen Protect Incineroar out in the field before. It's not necessarily new, it's just not necessarily common.
Right.
But having that opportunity to protect past a hit is really nice, especially too with this Incineroar having Clear Amulet. So not only can you protect past a hit, but you're also not in any danger of getting your stats reduced by the Incineroar over on Zachary's end.
The Whimsicott also very key in Carson's top 8 win. We saw it be very supportive with that Tailwind, Encore, and Light Screen combination of attacks. Not sure how valuable that Light Screen will be here. Zachary's team is made up of 5 physical attackers this time around, and the Ninetales, might be we're setting up Light Screen against, but you probably have some different priorities here.
I mean, you talked about the Whimsicott we saw before, and we get to see it again as it's Whimsicott and Incineroar for Carson, Sneasler, and Rillaboom before Zachary to be kicking off our second top 4 match. And with this Rillaboom and Sneasler, it will be a Grassy Train brought about, and of course, instantly, a Grassy Seed activation. This Sneasler is going to be fast, it has the defense boost, but it is going to get intimidated, so not the same damage output that you would have liked.
Yeah, the Dire Claw is still very threatening for this Whimsicott, though. It is double weak to those poison-type attacks. So if Whimsicott wants to stay on the field and get a Tailwind up, it will have to Terastallize unless it gets knocked out immediately.
Looking into this as well, we got the opportunity to see the 2 Pokemon Zachary has in the bag, King Gambit and Basculegion. So 2 really powerful Pokemon going on forward. Though the King Gambit is not one that would necessarily appreciate a couple of the Pokemon that Carson has. So I'm curious to see what Carson has in the back. Of course, when you do have the Whimsicott, it is just a pretty good opportunity to set up a Tailwind if you would like, especially since you can't get faked out. Does mean you could have been at risk of getting KO'd, and Carson's going to actually prioritize this piece, switch it out, and bring the Ursaluna in.
Ursaluna does come in on this Dire Claw. We'll take it very well thanks to resisting it and that Intimidate. Actually, a double switch from Carson. The Incineroar does not want to take any attacks either, as Annihilate hits the field. Will be immune to any close combats or fake-outs due to that Ghost typing.
Really interesting switches coming out to try and make sure as little damage as possible. Fake Out does nothing into a Ghost immunity. Oh, wait! The Ursaluna will take the hit, obviously, so well. It does not like that sleep, though. And of course, if you're looking for an Ursaluna to be able to switch in safely, get that Flame Orb and attack, well, it's going to be something that is way delayed until later. And of course, now just kind of a sitting duck out on the field.
The bonus for that sleep there is that as soon as Ursaluna wakes up, it will obviously be able to attack, but it won't get the Guts boost from the Flame Orb until its second turn being awake. So you've bought yourself a lot of time with that Dire Claw sleep for this Ursaluna to be weakened, and not have that full power attack coming in. Of course, swapping in on the Dire Claw, then being put to sleep, means it still has to take its guaranteed sleep turn as well. This Ursaluna might not have the chance to get a lot done in this match.
Annihilate switching out yet again as want to try and catch any sort of damage immunity. And of course, with this Incineroar, bring another round of Intimidates in. Now, both of these Pokemon are sitting at that -2 attack, so not doing necessarily as much damage as you would want in this board state. Now it's going to be Terastallization, the Ursaluna. It is asleep, but making sure that you're not taking a super effective close combat or anything else, and make sure you can make your way past the turn since you don't have the option. But going for the Dire Claw, okay, with the -2 attack, it is not the damage you want, but we get to see that it's neither super effective hit that's targeted into there, and considering the -2 attack, that's a decent chunk done into that Ursaluna.
It's a great call on the Dire Claw there. If the Ursaluna Terastallizes, you get that super effective hit. If it doesn't Terastallize, you still have the super effective Wood Hammer. If the Whimsicott swaps in on the possible close combat and Wood Hammer, you're going to knock it out with that Dire Claw. So really nice heads-up play from Zachary to make sure you're still maintaining this positive momentum.
And with Fake Out on the board and just a -2 attack anyways, a little bit of a swap as Basculegion is going to hit the field instead. Something that can do a little bit more pressure going on forward. Fake Out into the Sneasler slot instead. Ursaluna has taken the mandatory turn of sleep, and it's going to take another turn of sleep just for fun here. No wake up on this turn. And with Basculegion here, that's a lot of damage that can now go threaten into this Incineroar.
Absolutely. Incineroar does not want to take a Wave Crash, but neither do either of the Pokemon in the back for Carson. Annihilate would be able to survive with that Focus Sash, but then you lose the benefit of that Focus Sash, and you might be susceptible to a knockout later on. Of course, Whimsicott does resist it, but without the best defenses in the world, this adaptability boosted Wave Crash will still do a lot of damage. You have the option for a double up here, but of course, Incineroar protecting could buy you some time too.
That move, that's not that common, but of course, if you're trying to buy time, so nice. Dire Claw, though, into the Ursaluna, the critical hit. Going to make that difference between a KO or surviving. Ursaluna goes down, absolutely no impact within this match. Incineroar, of course, will survive through the turn, but the Ursaluna, a lot of the times, that is where a lot of the damage comes up for this team. So losing that Pokemon and not being able to do anything with it really hurts.
Sneasler is really making its presence known in the latter stages of this last North American Regional in Regulation H. Dire Claw has been huge for a bunch of trainers this weekend. The combination of the sleep and critical hit finishing off at Ursaluna. Like you said, that Terastallized Ursaluna, the big offensive piece, got nothing done. It didn't attack a single time in this match. Now Carson has to try and find a way around this Basculegion.
And Basculegion, too, even if Carson tries to dedicate research towards it, it's going to be just a switch out in King Gambit instead. And yeah, that's going to be tough. Carson is setting up the Tailwind on his end so he can have a little bit more of that speed going on forward. Dire Claw into the Whimsicott is just going to be that clean KO. This Whimsicott doesn't have the Focus Sash, just the Covert Cloak. So two more, like another Pokemon done, only 2 more Pokemon remaining. Knockoff into the King Gambit. That's not going to be taking much damage at all. King Gambit not going to be able to do much damage, but at this point in the match, Zachary just has way too much momentum that even with the speed, I don't know if Carson will be able to close this out. Annihilate hits the field, and that's going to be instantly pressured with any sort of Sucker Punch going on forward.
Zachary's set up a Basculegion endgame very, very well here. If you get any damage into the Annihilate, you're going to be able to finish it off with a Wave Crash. Of course, that's Incineroar. Cannot take a Wave Crash at all thanks to that Fire typing. So if you're able to get past this Tailwind, rather, you put yourself in a really solid spot. The Terra Fire option from this King Gambit is fantastic here. You remove the weakness to close combat, and of course, Flare Blitz as well.
Yeah, so being able to click this Terastallization to just make sure things don't go sideways in this match just works out so well, especially too when you call out options into the opposing Pokemon. There is a couple ways it could go wrong for the King Gambit. One of those, if you did go for the Sucker Punch, would be Annihilate readying up for that coaching and not really doing anything, as we do see the Annihilate go for. Incineroar now will get to do more damage, attack boost, but still not enough to take this Sneasler down thanks to that Grass Easy defense boost it got earlier on. And Kowtow Cleave into the Annihilate instead. Still just going to be picking up the KO. Sure, this Incineroar's got an attack boost. It has a defense boost. There is 4 Pokemon on the other end. It does not matter how strong you think Incineroar is. It cannot close this out. That's the forfeit button. And Zachary up the first game in the set.
Really smart plays by Zachary there. Of course, getting that Dire Claw sleep puts him in a pretty good position, but he still did have to capitalize on it, and he did exactly what he needed to. Calling that Ursaluna Terrestrialization with the Dire Claw really heads up play, knowing that's a great way for Carson to try and weather that sleep, making sure that he's making the most possible use of this fortunate Dire Claw sleep that he was given. The combination of attacks from Sneasler and this Rillaboom, and then the King Gambit later on, were huge.
I love that pointing to this Sneasler. You know what? I think that Zachary has earned the title of Sneasler Strongest Shoulder because there is so many, like Soldier, because there is so many people that use Sneasler. Don't get me wrong. I have not seen a single plushie on the stage. And I mean, that Sneasler put in work. The Dire Claw sleep, amazing. As well, the critical hit, I think he was in such a commanding position later on anyways, but just the Dire Claw critical hit to really close things up. And it wasn't even just luck that really was able to influence this match. Zachary as well just really heads up plays into making sure that he covered all of the options that Carson had.
Absolutely. It was a really well-played match by Zachary. The King Gambit showing why it's still a powerhouse in this meta. Golden Go have been very important for Carson throughout this whole tournament, but we didn't see the Golden Go come at all because King Gambit is a fantastic answer to Golden Go.
Going into game number 2, Incineroar Ursaluna in the lead as Zachary's gonna run back the Sneasler and the Rillaboom. So yet again, grassy terrain, a grassy seed, and a Sneasler that's gonna be so fast going on forward.
Also interesting to see this Sneasler was at -1 or -2 for most of that first game, but still stayed on the field, kept getting that consistent damage out with the Dire Claw in the close combat. And of course the benefit of having the Grassy Seed Acrobatics set, when the Annihilate came in, Annihilate usually very strong into Sneasler, but Acrobatics was still able to get a good chunk of damage into it, even at -2.
Yeah, that's why I love that we got the 3 attacks on this one as opposed to something like this Sword Dance that we get to see with some of the Sneasler. Sure, the Sneasler, it was at that -2, but it really just had to move for any circumstance. Now, going up against this Incineroar and this Ursaluna, there was an active fake out on the board, but it is an Incineroar that's just switching out right away. It Annihilate in its place. So if there is an attempt to add a fake out into that slot, Annihilate is going to make sure there is nothing done. But here we get to see Terrestrialization.
It's going to be that Sneasler taking the Terra Flying, boosting up the power of that Acrobatics, and removing the ground type weakness. Now these ground type attacks that Ursaluna may throw its way will do 0 damage. We get to see the possibility of some big damage here, but it is going to be the Protect from Ursaluna instead.
Makes a lot of sense. You were put to sleep. You didn't get to have that Flame Orb or that burn in that game number 1. And when you are staring down Pokemon that can do so much damage into you, you have to be playing this safe. So you protect, you're not getting hit from anything on the opposing end, and now you have more offensive pressure going on into this next turn.
Annihilate does come in, keeping its Focus Sash intact, but that also does mean for Zachary that you're not giving it any Rage Fist stacks right off the bat. So that could be a nice thing, you know, looking forward. Ursaluna does again have the possibility of going for that Fairy type Terrestrialization. Might be very useful for dodging super effective damage from this Rillaboom. But we have seen Zachary very willing to use Dire Claw into that resisted Ursaluna, trying to cover for a Terrestrialization. So maybe he tries to capitalize on that again.
I mean, even at this point in the match, if you are trying to call out that Terrestrialization again, I feel like there is a decently safe play with even just switching out and bringing that Incineroar back in for another round of Intimidate. Incineroar would take a Grass type hit and a Dire Claw really, really well. We're not going to see the double up though. It's going to be Zachary, the only one pivoting to bring Basculegion out onto the field, as it's going to be Terrestrialization coming out from Carson. So is going to go back into the Fairy type Terrestrialization. Not the double up that we got to see in game number 1, but still, if it is a Dire Claw from the Sneasler, something that is going to be more effective damage, bringing it down to just over half of its health. Final Gambit from the Annihilate. Fantastic switch coming out from Zachary. That is going to do absolutely nothing, but it is a Sneasler that you did some damage, and it's going to be instantly KO'd with a 1-hit knockout with a Facade.
Even with that defense boost, not enough for the Sneasler to survive. Ursaluna is so powerful, but again, another great Dire Claw call into that Terra Fairy Ursaluna. If you did go for close combat on that turn, you're losing a lot of ground, but thankfully Zachary is going for that consistent damage option with the Dire Claw, able to get a bunch of chip damage into that Ursaluna. Now it's very threatened by a Wave Crash or a Last Respects for the remainder of this game. Again, Annihilate has that Focus Sash still intact, but this Choice Scarf Basculegion will be able to get a lot of damage into it as well. The Rage Fist still also has 0 stacks on it, so I don't know if it'll be able to knock out Basculegion unless it, you know, maybe takes some Wave Crash recoil, or if you Wave Crash into Annihilate and give it the stack, but it's going to be a little bit difficult here because the Focus Sash still requires you to attack it twice.
That's a little bit of a difficult part of it, but eyeing up Pokemon like this Kingambit can do so much damage, a switch out. But this is where things are a little bit risky, because if you're bringing in an Incineroar, when there is a Defiant Pokemon sitting on the opposing end of the field, you have to have an answer to that sooner rather than later. And if the Ursaluna is the answer, that can be a little bit dangerous. Ursaluna, knowing that this is a really tough board state to go up against, is going to do nothing. But it's also going to be a Kingambit trying to go for a Sucker Punch. Not eye it much, but Incineroar swapping in right into a Wave Crash, but 1 HP survival to still stick around.
Huge survival from Incineroar. You are able to get a Fake Out off on this turn if you want to, but you cannot Fake Out this Wave Crash Basculegion. It is a Ghost type. It is immune to those normal type Fake Outs, and it will be able to fire off at least one more attack. Nice play there from Zachary to try and minimize the impact of that Annihilate. If it was trying to go for something like a close combat to knock out Kingambit, the combination of Sucker Punch and Wave Crash likely able to do the job. Kingambit now gets that Defiant boost, so it is able to start threatening a lot more with offense, but because of the Fairy Terra on the Ursaluna and Kingambit only carrying dark moves, this Ursaluna still isn't too afraid of the Kingambit. Maybe if you have to fire off a Headlong Rush and lower your defense, you start worrying about, maybe a +1 Black Glasses Sucker Punch taking you out. But for the time being, I think it's pretty safe in front of this Kingambit.
I would be worried about the Basculegion, though, especially with no Fake Out pressure being able to go into that slot. And of course, knowing that there is just this Kingambit that can just go for Protect. But Basculegion, Zachary's been playing this safe and is going to, yet again, Rillaboom to join back out onto this field.
Rillaboom might take an attack here. If it is a Headlong Rush coming into that slot from the Ursaluna, it will be very happy to see it. Fake Out will fail into the Protect of the Kingambit, and Ursaluna has the chance to attack.
And what is it going to be? No! It'll be Facade instead.
What?
So calling out the switch. Rillaboom swaps in. That was a Facade into a Ghost-type Pokemon. And calling it out is going to take a really big KO here. That was fantastic. I love that Carson was so bold to call out all of this pivoting Zachary's done, because he's done a really good job in making sure that, there is these immunities, you're tanking these hits, and that might be the momentum that's kind of needed to really get yourself back into this. Sure, it's still precarious right now with these two Pokemon, and Incineroar is pretty low, and the Basculegion can still have a lot of pressure, but you still have a fourth Pokemon in the back that we haven't seen.
That is a really great play from Carson, and now this Basculegion has the opportunity to lock itself into Last Respects instead of that Wave Crash. I think that might be a great option for Zachary here, because that limits the recoil you're taking. You get a little bit of healing from this grassy terrain as well, and of course with two teammates knocked out, that Last Respects is hitting for a lot of damage.
Ursaluna with just another Protect Sucker Punch into the Incineroar. Instead, though, it only needed to do a little bit of damage, and of course, having that attack boost from that earlier Defiant is going to be enough damage. And sure enough, Last Respects is the new lock going on forward. The only move that this Basculegion will be able to do. Now, is it going to be this Annihilate to wreak the field, or will we get to see the fourth Pokemon? What did Carson bring to try and close out this match to bring it into a game number 3?
It really all depends on this fourth Pokemon. It is going to be the Whimsicott, so the Tailwind option is still there for Carson, trying to get the speed advantage over this Choice Scarf Basculegion. This Kingambit, though, is still a little bit threatening with that +1 attack from the Defiant, and of course those Black Glasses. Two Fairy types staring it down, though. Not a great place to be for this Kingambit, and I don't think Basculegion will be able to take a Headlong Rush from this Ursaluna as well.
And the Tailwind, with that Whimsicott being the fourth Pokemon, going for all of the speed options here next to the Ursaluna on the field. Acting first, Headlong Rush into the Basculegion, and that's going to be another KO claimed for Carson. And of course, just this Kingambit left on the field for Zachary. And as you called out, staring down two Fairy-type Pokemon on the opposing end, even at this +1 attack, is not just the damage needed. Kowtow Cleave, even with the Black Glasses, is not enough to claim KO by itself, not even bringing it into Rage for the burn to do the job.
Even if it was enough, the Annihilate in the back does still have its Focus Sash. No matter how many boosts you have on that Sucker Punch, you cannot knock out a Focus Sash Annihilate with close combat. So this will be a win for Carson St. Denis. And we get another Game 3 here in Top 4.
What an incredible match. All just big call out. Carson, after his last match won on broadcast, it talked about different psychologies into the game, conditioning his opponents, and being able to make these moves later on. And something we got to see in display here in game number 2. Both trainers have been really great about pivoting Pokemon. And yeah, Zachary has been calling out Carson, but Carson hadn't necessarily called out Zachary before that turn. But going for a normal type move into a ghost type Pokemon is kind of one of those moments, especially since it seemed like Zachary was in a decently strong spot. That's one of those moves that can kind of just lose you the game most of the time. So to have the courage to go for it is astonishing.
I do think Zachary was a little bit in the driver's seat in that second game until that exact turn. These trainers are playing with zero fear. You Facade into a ghost type, you Dire Claw into a ground type twice. It works out every time. How is that happening, Sierra? These trainers are so good, and that's why they're here in top 4.
This has been such a great back and forth between these two. Real great mind games going on. And with all those mind games happening, what even happens now within a game number 3? Because there's so many different turns to call back for where this all could have gone wrong for either of these trainers. Zachary has led this Sneasler and the Rillaboom for both of the prior 2 games. Carson has been the one switching it up. Is Zachary going to be switching it up now that he took that loss? Or is it Carson yet again that has to make this big play to find himself in a winning position?
I think there's room for mix-ups here. I think if you're Zachary, I think you always want to be threatening Ursaluna. That's the one Pokemon that you really can't allow to have free reign in this matchup. But a lot of Pokemon on Zachary's team do provide that threat. Rillaboom, Basculegion, Sneasler, all of them threaten super effective damage. Even the Ninetales, if you want to bring that might be a little bit of a tougher bring in case Carson also opts to bring that Hold and Go. But it's going to be a fun game 3 here.
Getting into it. Incineroar, that Ursaluna coming out from Carson St. Denis, and on the opposing end, King Gambit and Basculegion. And when you see an Incineroar on the opposing end right away, that's a King Gambit that's going to have a +1 to the attack going on forward.
Immediately getting that Defiant boost is really great for this King Gambit. Again, we have an Ursaluna that can reasonably terrestrialize into that Fairy type. I'd be a little bit surprised not to see that on this turn just to protect itself from that super effective Wave Crash. But once these attack boosts start stacking, it doesn't really matter what the type chart is. King Gambit with those black glasses and some attack boosts will be doing a lot of damage.
Or even just picking up KOs that maybe the Basculegion couldn't quite get, but it's a Basculegion that not quite feeling quite too safe in this spot. Rillaboom's going to be hitting the field instead. Of course, this is going to be able to set this grassy terrain, and if there is something like an Earthquake to nullify that damage going on forward. Incineroar, though, also swapping out. The round of Intimidates was enough. Carson with the pivot, bringing the Whimsicott out right away into this match.
The Whimsicott will be here to possibly get some tailwind going for this Ursaluna. We get the terrestrialization right off the bat. Again, it is the Terra Fairy on Ursaluna. Will protect itself from those close combats, from those liquidations and wave crashes, from those wood hammers and grassy glides.
It's been such a strong terrestrialization throughout this match, and going to be once again, maybe next turn, as King Gambit was just going to protect. When there was the fake out, you just have to be safe. And when there's a headlong rush going your way, well, doubly so. And that's going to be an Ursaluna that now has the Flame Orb. But now we do have this opportunity for Rillaboom to just fake out, but you have to be careful when there's a Whimsicott that has a lot of threatening power by itself. You can go for the Tailwind, or even a Long Cord to lock it down. There's a lot of different ways Carson can play this.
Fake out could be a great way to prevent this Ursaluna from doing a bunch of damage here, but it does essentially lock you into swapping Rillaboom out on the next turn. When you have something like this Ursaluna able to threaten some very powerful attacks into anything that comes in, it might be a bit of a risky play. Rillaboom will likely be knocked out to Facade, and this King Gambit will be knocked out to Headlong Rush, but Ursaluna cannot knock out both at the same time. The grassy terrain here comes in pretty handy not only for the healing, but you are lowering the power of Earthquake from this Ursaluna.
Ooh, okay, another big play from Carson, but not going to be working out. Calling out an Encore if we did see something like a fake out from this Rillaboom, but instead, all-out offense into the Ursaluna. The double up is not quite enough for the KO, though, bringing it down to just a low amount of health. And with the Headlong Rush into the King Gambit cannot stand up to Ursaluna too well. So Carson to take the first KO in this match, but a heavy cost.
I think that's a really nice play from Zachary as well, guaranteeing you're getting that damage into that Ursaluna. The Rillaboom's Wood Hammer, despite not being super effective, is more than enough to threaten a KO with Grassy Glide later on. The Encore into the, what I think had to be the Rillaboom there, was trying to catch that Fake Out right off the bat. You know, why bother waiting for it to use Fake Out when you can preemptively do it instead? But now Sneasler will hit the field. We have the option for those Dire Claws once again, which threaten a KO into the non-Focus Sash Whimsicott. And despite the ability to set up Tailwind here with this Whimsicott, Rillaboom's Grassy Glide Glide will attack before Ursaluna regardless.
And with such a low amount of health, this Ursaluna, there's nothing it can really quite do. And if you try and go for Protect and get a little bit more momentum with the Whimsicott, this Sneasler, that acrobatic set that you called out, it cannot stand up to that. And with the Focus Sash being on the Annihilate, it's a Whimsicott that will not be able to survive the turn.
It's not, yeah. If that's the option that Zachary wants to go for, the Whimsicott is in trouble here. Whimsicott will swap out, knowing that if it wants to set up Tailwind, it will come at the cost of being knocked out.
Carson has to navigate this carefully. This Sneasler can do so much damage, but it will be limited now that there is Intimidate onto both of these Pokemon. But Rillaboom also swapping out. We had talked about that pressure of the Grassy Glide into the Ursaluna, but feeling more confident to again just switch out and bring the Basculegion out. But we're just not stopping there. No Pokemon wants to be here. Another pivot. Carson with the double as Annihilate is going to hit the field. It's only going to be one Pokemon to act on this turn. Not just act, but Terrasilize as well. And with this Sneasler into this flying type, this is a Pokemon that those terrifying acrobatics can deal so much, even with. And if it did target into a freshly swapped and Annihilate, that could kind of close things out. It is going to be the move of choice, but where it targets into the Annihilate, it's not going to be enough for the KO, but bringing it down to just a little bit of health where one of these priority moves would be enough to pick it off.
Big play from Zach again. Very heads up. It's very tempting to go for something like Dire Claw into that Ursaluna to knock it out, even a Grassy Glide, or you might want to Dire Claw that Whimsicott. But knowing that the Ursaluna could possibly swap into Annihilate, Acrobatics would easily knock out the Ursaluna and of course get big damage on this Annihilate. Not only is that Focus Sash broken, it's very vulnerable to being knocked out by any attack from any of Zachary's remaining Pokemon. Now this Incineroar has the option to fake out, but Basculegion threatens a knockout as well. Really nothing can swap into that Annihilate slot.
Really can't, but something is going to anyways. So Annihilate is out. Whimsicott to join the field once again. This is a Whimsicott again. It didn't get to set up any sort of speed, but at least it's not going to be taking an attack from the Sneasler. Basculegion will have the opportunity to attack, but Wave Crash into the Incineroar is the lock, and an Incineroar that cannot stand up to it. Another take KO in this match. And this Incineroar was really key in limiting the damage.
We're starting to see Sneasler run away with this game a little bit here. The Whimsicott will be able to set up Tailwind, but the Unburdened boost from the Grassy Seed being consumed means that Sneasler will be able to outspeed both Ursaluna and Annihilate despite that Tailwind, and Acrobatics will easily be able to take out both. How does Carson come back from this? Is Basculegion able to knock out the Incineroar as well? It means that Carson is down to 3 Pokemon, but 2 of them are very, very weak.
Yeah, at this point in the match, I don't know if he can. The Whimsicott, sure, it is at full health, but again, you do not appreciate a hit from the Sneasler, and Ursaluna, its days are numbered. Knowing this, a Protect to just try and make its way through, see if there's a way you can bring yourself back into this match. Sneasler targeting it down, so at least the Ursaluna will stay safe for right now. Wave Crash, though, this dealt so much damage before. Whimsicott takes the hit a lot better, but still at risk of getting KO'd on the next turn around. Notably, Whimsicott had not moved yet. Moonblast into Sneasler, though, is still just not the damage that you need to really make any momentum.
This was the only turn I think that Carson had where you could potentially save yourself from one of your Pokemon being knocked out, but Whimsicott taking so much damage from that Wave Crash means that this Sneasler and Basculegion combo threatens huge damage. I think a really smart play to not swap out into Rillaboom on this turn as well. The grassy terrain just ending means that as soon as Rillaboom comes back in, its Grassy Glide will have priority for the rest of its time on the field to knock out either of Carson's last Pokemon.
And if Rillaboom doesn't come in sooner rather than later, and the Ursaluna even had a way of making it through, it would just be KO'd. But no, Tailwind is not going to save you there. Sneasler, another KO going its way. And now only 2 Pokemon remaining. A Whimsicott brought down to less than half of its health, and an Annihilate that was so low from before. Wave Crash is going to be just the Annihilate out, and Zachary 1 Pokemon away from securing his spot in the finals.
Sneasler is about to be the hero that Zachary needed in this match, taking 3 KOs in Game 3 with these powerful acrobatics. Unfortunately for Annihilate, that acrobatics on the swap has left it in a position where only 1 more attack will send Zachary to top 2.
And it's going to be the forfeit. Zachary Weed is making his way into the grand finals here in Las Vegas. You can hear the cheers in the crowd.